These are my 71-year-old floors. Their finish is ambered, they have paint on them, they have water damage, and even have a cute paw print. Although paw prints are cute, floors should not have paw prints on them. So today, I decided to try and save my 71-year-old floors by sanding, replacing bad boards, scraping, mudding, and putting down a new coat of finish. So here's the start of my journey. You can see the 71-year-old floors, the hallway, the main room, another angle of the main room. You can really see the wear and tear in this shot. Just how the finish is almost completely worn through. Bedroom 1, bedroom 2 with the very severe damage in the closet here. This is an example of wood that I'm not gonna be able to just sand, but I'm gonna have to completely tear out and replace. But before I could start sanding, I needed to pull out a bunch of tacks. I guess the house used to have carpet in the bedrooms. And now that prep work taken care of, I could use the belt sander to strip the finish off. Hey, so I just got done sanding the first bit on the stop. You can see how I was feeling so far about it. And you can see in the beginning, it's kind of scraped from me going too fast and really letting the motor pull me up the sander. I was pretty surprised at how much tug there is, but shouldn't be that surprising since it is a huge belt. And so after that, I started really forcing myself to do baby steps as I walk along, and I started getting a much more equal pattern of sanding. One thing I did read online or watch videos online is that if you go too much straight and back, you can create kind of ruts. And so it's good to go at a diagonal. So I will probably try to do that whenever I go up to 60 grit. Right now I'm using 36 grit. And so that's where I'm at right now. Most of the belt sanding, and that revealed that some of this damage isn't going to come out. I think it's probably water damage, so I decided to buy some chunks of wood to patch it. Sadly, they don't sell the unfinished red oak anymore without special ordering it. All they have is finished stuff, so I'll have to resand that. But now I'm gonna start ripping out these damaged pieces and replacing them. It's kind of interesting, the damage is so severe that the wood is actually a different color pretty significantly down there. And there we have it, our first board removed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it just about a 1/4 inch before here, and then once I get all this scrap removed, I'll be able to just creep up on this line to get that perfect fit I'm looking for. Where to cut to actually ended up making my pieces a little bit shorter than they should be, because now they're just gonna perfectly butt against the trim, and it would be better if there was a little bit of overlap. So that's kind of how it goes, learning as you do projects. I got the wood, so it's cut to the right length, but to fit it all back together, I'm gonna have to get rid of this tongue, and then it should be able to just slide right in. That's the hope, at least. But there is the patch done. I just gotta sand it. Still gotta tack it in with a couple of red ones. shower right here, and there's really old water damage. Most of it's sanded out, but I still, because I have so many boards, I think this is a great time to replace it. So I'm gonna start here and go down till probably about here and just replace this whole swatch. So 28 inches should give me a half an inch to lose under there so it won't be stuck. All right, I'm not able to fit that piece in, so we're gonna see if I can get it in 2 pieces. And that'd be great if that makes it easier. So we almost had it fitting, but this rail is just slightly catching, so I'm gonna pair it off. So there is a block in there. So we're supposed to measure to that block. That gets us. All right, let's see how it fits. That's pretty good. But now we're a little bit off because I paired the other one, so I'm gonna have to do that a little bit with this guy too. These nails I'm using are so delicate, like bend on me, but I'm piling them. It's pretty ridiculous. There we go. There we go. That looks good. Turned out, I do think that it was dumb that I scarfed this instead of doing one solid piece. So if I were to do this one, I would put in the extra effort to cut one piece there. I think once I fill it though with putty, because I'm gonna do that for the whole floor, I think it should be pretty hidden and not really matter. Now I just need to tack them in so that they don't wiggle, and then it should look pretty good without that huge water stain anymore. Ready for the next step, which is edge sanding. And so we're gonna first take off this bolt.
coming with the Rotary, I'll be able to flatten it and get at this last little bit of finish in these corners. And then here's still that same problem. This new wood is burning a lot more than the old stuff. Got burn marks. Hopefully that'll come out when I sand on a finer grit, a 60 grit.
So this part of the project was by far the most difficult and frustrating. The edge sander had this metal lip shield on it, which is why it cannot sand up to the edge of the wall, and left that ½ inch of finish. I tried to remove that ½ inch of finish with the multi-tool, but it wasn't coarse enough to sand the finish off. Then I tried to use a carbide scraper. It kind of worked, but it felt really slow and was physically really hard, and it was hard to get it at the right angle to scrape right. And when it did work and pulled the finish off, it also tore the wood fibers, which I'd then have to go back in with the multi-tool to sand those down so it looked good. This scraper, the last one was made with a table saw blade metal carbide, and so I couldn't actually sharpen it, whereas this, I think I will be able to sharpen the file, so let's see if it works. So the new scraper's kind of working, but it's a ton of work to use. It's pretty slow and it tears the wood fibers, so it's really not that great. Sander off the Facebook Marketplace. All my tools and whatnot are in a cargo trailer. So I need to get this, and we'll see if it's able to clean up the edge or if I need to go rent that edger again. So this edge sander actually worked. Amazing. The solution turned out to be to go and rent another edge sander, but from a different store. The first one had that metal lip and shield on it, which kept it from being able to bump against the wall, whereas this one was able to go all the way up to the baseboards because it didn't have that piece of metal. frustrating to have to completely redo this edge sanding step, but it also felt really good to finally see it working how it should. Another thing that I found really validating is while I was editing this video, I saw that one of the best woodworkers on YouTube, Blacktail Studios, also had similar trouble while he was trying to refinish his floors. And whenever he got to this step and the edges weren't coming off how he thought they should and it was taking too much time and effort, his solution was just to kind of go and hire someone to do it for him. I was sanding going around and I was really focused, and without realizing it, I whacked my head into this corner and got this big, nice cut on my forehead. So now I get to do the rest of this job with that. Pretty great. I've had a lot better luck sanding everything with the sander from Home Depot because it doesn't have that metal shield on the front. So I've really been able to get pretty much right up to the edge of everywhere, except for the corners and a few places kind of like that. So now I'm gonna go and work on doing that. Seeing if I can get it with the orbital sander or multi-tool or the screwers. There's still some big sections like that where the edge couldn't fit. I've been struggling with this. So first, use this really coarse bit. It's like metal, and then it'll scratch and really damage the wood. And then I can clean that up with 50 grit, and then for my finish grit, we'll go to 80, and that works really well. So I added some water to the wood filler and I've been mixing it up, and that allows it to spread a lot better, which is nice, but I think it'll also have the effect of now the wood filler will probably be a little bit sunken. So just kind of plus and minus. I don't know if that means I'll need to go over some spots twice or if I'll just call it good enough. But I did that because the filler was just so hard to move with how thick it was. So it's spreading a lot better now, but to our next.
Mixing the dregs of the first gallon with the second gallon of white oak wood filler. So that it would be ready for sealer. And now I finally get to use this Rotary sander to get all the middles of the rooms. Getting this thing here was the biggest piece, just getting out those two stairs into the house, because it has this leathering action, makes it really hard to pick up by yourself, but I got it in. And so now we're going to sand. I'm starting with this bedroom because this is when I'm still trying to only use one tub of mud filler to do the whole house. I ended up having to buy a whole third container, and so some of these were cut so much with water that it sank, and so I'm guessing I'm gonna have to refill a few areas. I'm not gonna go too crazy with it though, because regardless, like the wood will expand and contract and crack, so nothing's really perfect in the house, but I'm gonna try to make it look pretty nice. So that is where I'm at. I've also been having my attic fan run, which hopefully helps with getting some of the dust out of the house, or at least into my attic. Which, you know, probably isn't the most ideal, but still tough to have it just in the house.
You'll see a few places, like right there, and right there, and right there, that still need help. There's a few more, you can see the places. But then the rest of the house, I haven't been able to sand enough yet. You can see all of that where the mud is showing. And then here you can really see all the markings of the belt sander. So I'm just gonna have to keep going over and over the floors with the 36 grit Wardwell sander until I get it all cleaned up. So that's what I'm at right now.
floors sanded and vacuumed, we could start on putting the sealer down. The sealer really scared me when we were putting it down because it was really splotchy, but as it dried, that completely cleared up and it had a great finish. And a few hours later, we were putting down our first coat of HD Traffic. What's pretty cool about this type of finish is that it doesn't need to be sanded in between coats, which saved a ton of time. Pass with the top coat, so now I'm going to do the second pass of the traffic, and then it should be done. Just gotta let it dry for 3 days, and then we'll finally get to enjoy the floors. And with the last coat of HD Traffic applied, I could not be more happy with how the renovated 71-year-old floors turned out. From sun patinaed amber to blonde natural finish, all that's left is to enjoy the new floors.